All right, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, UFC 294 Media Day took place early this morning. I want to give my thoughts and reaction to some of the questions that were asked, some of the answers that were given. I'm going to focus on just the co-main and the main event. I'll start with Khamzat Chimaev, I'll go to Usman, I'll go to Volk, and then I'll go with Islam last. I just took some notes while I was listening to these interviews and jotted down some of what I thought were noteworthy moments and things like that. So that's basically what I'm going to cover, just a synopsis of what was said overall, because each of their interviews were pretty long. And as everybody knows, some of the MMA media ask just absolutely horrendous questions that suck, and just, you know, they, by virtue of that, we get boring answers from them. So I'm going to focus on what I thought was interesting. Let's get right into it. Khamzat Chimaev, first thing I noticed, this guy is confident as can be, obviously, like he usually is. This is what we grow to expect from Khamzat Chimaev, almost a slight arrogance, but not in a negative way. Obviously, he's confident in his abilities. He has been working very hard for this move up to middleweight, and as he said, one of the reporters asked him about this, he has fought at middleweight multiple times before the UFC anyways. This isn't new to him. He fought at middleweight in the UFC twice, if I'm not mistaken. And, yeah, he's just, as I said, confident as can be. He's taken a lot of time to work and improve on his skills and abilities, and I think that we will get a chance to see those on Saturday night. Now, something that I thought was kind of funny from him, which I'm giving him more credit than maybe I would give like a native English speaker, because obviously English is not his second language, and I feel like it's a lot harder for guys to come up with good lines and jokes and things like that in English when it's not their first language. He compared Kamaru Usman to an iPhone 5, and he compared himself to an iPhone Pro, which I thought was just a nice witty line, kind of funny, and a little bit wholesome from him, obviously meaning he's the new age, he's on that 2023 shit, and Usman is, you know, old news, and that will reflect in the fight. Also, something that I thought was actually super interesting was they asked him about, some of the reporters kept bringing it up as though you were unable to make 170, so how has this journey been to now make 185? And that was when he kind of mentioned, well, you know, I fought at 185 multiple times, and he goes, and look, I've missed weight once in my life. Do you know what I mean? And then he said, and there were other plans. They weren't my plans, and I can't talk about those all here. So I thought that was very interesting, because what he's alluding to, for those of you that don't know, is UFC 295, Jesus Christ, 295. UFC 279, when he was scheduled to fight Nate Diaz, and then all of a sudden during fight week we got notified that Khamzat Chimaev was not going to be able to make weight. The doctors came in and told him to stop cutting weight, even though he said he was perfectly fine to continue cutting weight. They shuffled the card around a little bit. Nate Diaz ended up fighting Ferguson. Khamzat ended up fighting Kevin Holland, who was supposed to be fighting another, like, all this crazy shit happened. He ended up weighing in, I think, at 178 pounds officially for that fight against Kevin Holland, which was about where they told him to stop cutting weight. And just, he's alluded to this a couple of times now, but to me it was never as blatant. Now, maybe he's said something in an interview that I hadn't seen before this, but, you know, somebody had plans, they weren't my plans, and I can't talk about that here, which makes me think that there is a lot of validity to the theory, I guess, that Dana White and the UFC maybe in general realized kind of last minute that this is a complete and total mismatch, and why would we go and sever a relationship with Nate Diaz in this way, where we're just feeding him to the wolf, no pun intended, okay? And then they shuffled things around. They told Khamzat, stop cutting weight because we're going to shuffle shit around. It's strange, and it is unfortunate if that is the case, because that moment almost defined Khamzat Chimaev's career for a lot of people. Like, they won't let off the fact that he missed weight, especially because we saw what he weighed, you know what I mean, when the doctor told him to stop cutting. So it's unfortunate that he maybe got caught in the crossfires of a plan that the UFC wanted to carry out, and also one that wasn't necessary. They could have just made a different fight in the first place anyways. They didn't have to try and completely devalue Nate Diaz on his way out the door, but whatever, dude, it is what it is. I just thought that was a very interesting moment from Khamzat Chimaev. Now, he gets asked about Bo Nickel, which I thought was good, because he did this whole comparison about American wrestling and mountain wrestling, okay? He says that they're just two completely different things, and it was regarding how he thinks Fucking hell, dude. How, oh my God. He was talking about Khabib and Gaethje, and then he said that Usman, he's seen him go with Gaethje, and that Gaethje and him were pretty even, but maybe Usman just had a little bit of an advantage because of the size, and he thinks that his wrestling's not going to be a problem for him because of that, because he thinks that his style is much more similar to a Khabib style, which is mountain wrestling compared to American wrestling. And then the reporter follows up with, well, what about Bo Nickel? He said that he was hoping the UFC would call him, which, by the way, bro, you don't sit around and wait for the UFC to call you. If you find out there's a short notice opportunity, you fucking throw your name in that hat immediately, which obviously Bo Nickel did not do. He sat around and waited for a phone call, even though he's unranked, and he would be fighting a guy in Khamzat Chimaev who was pretty established in the UFC already. And he just says, you know, this isn't wrestling, brother. This is not wrestling, brother. We're not wrestling for points, brother. It's a fight, brother. Like, I don't care. Someone take me down, brother. I get up, I smash his face, you know. And I love that answer from him because he's right, dude. It's not fucking wrestling. Bo Nickel, in my opinion, has much more sloppy striking. And maybe he could get Khamzat down. But what is he going to do after that? And I'm not saying that Bo Nickel has zero grappling capabilities, because we've seen him submit guys. We've seen him finish guys on the feet. But it's just the talk about Bo Nickel and Khamzat Chimaev right now is crazy to me. Khamzat Chimaev got to the 3rd ranked spot in the welterweight division. He flatlined Gerald Meerschaert, who is actually a step above any competition that Bo Nickel has had in the UFC thus far. Do you know what I mean? And that's at middleweight. Okay, so it was just a weird one. Also, dude, this fucking cuck reporter, dude, I couldn't believe this. Now, look, I know there were a lot of people that were butthurt about what Khamzat Chimaev said. I don't even remember after what fight it was. I don't think it was Gilbert Burns. I think it was after he fought the Leech, when he was screaming, I cover everybody, I kill everybody. They asked him to clarify. Some dickhead reporter said, do you want to clarify that statement, please? As if anybody thought Khamzat Chimaev was actually sending death threats. Now, to be fair, his fans probably are, because that happens on a regular basis, okay? If there are people on the internet that say bad things about Khamzat Chimaev, without a doubt they're getting death threats, or at the very least, some very nasty things thrown their way. But Khamzat Chimaev obviously is talking in the context of fighting. He just got done with a fight. Now, maybe some people, you know, wanted to bring up the timing of when he said that. I do believe it was around the 9/11 anniversary, right? I just don't know that that's crossing Khamzat Chimaev's mind when he's going on about that, and I don't know that it should have to. Do you know what I mean? I get maybe in terms of like comedy and shit, timing's everything. Maybe don't talk about something when, you know what I mean, something horrible just happened like that, but man, we're all fucking fight fans. We just watch them go out there and beat the shit out of each other. I'm not bothered by some words that he said. And for that reporter to ask him to clarify those statements, to me, just seemed bitch. And Khamzat Chimaev thought so as well, because he kind of rolled his eyes at it and was just like, bruh, I talk about a fight, bruh. Like, I come with everybody, bruh. Like, what the fuck? Trying to attribute something to him that I don't think is all that fair. Now, we're going to move to Kamaru Usman. It took a little bit longer on Khamzat than I wanted to. I'll try to talk a little bit faster, okay? So, man, I might just be fucking biased, but I'll tell you what, dude. I can't stand the way Kamaru Usman talks at all. He didn't say anything that was even remotely bad or annoying, but it's just the way that he talks, bro. I don't understand it. You are not a philosopher. You are also not sitting around a campfire with a flashlight on your face telling ghost stories to a bunch of fucking 11-year-olds, okay? Every single answer that he gave, he had a relatively shorter interview compared to Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev, and maybe even Khamzat for that matter. I think it was under 20 minutes. We had a sub 20-minute interview. Bro could have cut that down to 14, okay? You could ask this motherfucker a yes or no question. And look, I'm going to give him tons of praise after this, so don't get all butthurt that I'm shit talking, okay? You could ask him something like, hey, Kamaru, did you have eggs for breakfast? Okay? A yes or no question. And he would be like, well, you know, it's just like soul searching, you know. And I've been here before. And when I take time to look and reflect on what I've done, throughout my career, then, you know, it's only after I reflect and I soul search that I'm able to realize I did have some eggs for breakfast. Yes or no, okay? Either way. Now, I'm not saying that he needs to ask or that he needs to answer every question just yes or no like that, but bro, if you're going to say so many words, speed it up a little bit, okay? Now, he actually surprised me quite a bit because, look, as I said, I'm slightly biased. I'm not the biggest Kamaru Usman fan, and I think that a lot of it is actually just what he says and how he says it and all that shit, right? Like, if I had never heard him talk before in my life, there's not a whole lot to dislike when it comes to Kamaru Usman. Do you know what I mean? So, based on strictly fighting, he's phenomenal, obviously, but just when he talks, it drives me fucking crazy, okay? But he said very good things that if it was just in a little bit of a different cadence, like, I'll to be fair, dude, because you know what? He has banked up some good faith, some goodwill, I think, for taking this fight on short notice. He answered his questions very well. He, you know, was very complimentary to Colby. He was very complimentary to Gilbert Burns, who these are all guys that he's fought before, all adversaries. I know that he was friends with Burns before they fought, but still, you know what I mean? He's so complimentary to Colby, Burns, Leon, who's just beat him twice, you know what I mean? Like, if anything, that would be the guy you're the most salty about maybe right now. And even Sean Strickland, for that matter, who, by the way, just beat the ever-living fuck out of one of Kamaru's good friends in Israel Adesanya, and also had fought Kamaru before, and Kamaru's got a win over him at welterweight. So if there was a guy that Kamaru could have really gone in on, it would be the newly crowned champion, Sean Strickland, but he didn't. Now he thinks that he's confident in that matchup and that he would be a bad matchup for Sean Strickland, but he had nothing but good things to say about any of these guys, and I actually like that. I feel like that's a bit of a, I don't know, a little bit refreshing, maybe a little bit of a change. He maybe sounded a little bit more humble to me, and I'm not saying that he even really needed to be humbled, but I just mean that his demeanor and the way that he was talking about his adversaries essentially was, you know, it just seemed very humble. He also had a pretty goddamn good rebuttal to Khamzat Chimaev's fucking phone comment, which I thought was funny also, because oftentimes Kamaru Usman will try a line and it goes, it falls flat and fucking just dies right there where it is. Now, he had a couple of those too, but still, you know, they asked him, they quoted Khamzat, they said, you know, he said, you're the 5 and he's the new pro. And Usman goes, well, you know, the iPhone Pro doesn't fit in everybody's pocket. Like, it doesn't fit in all pockets. And he goes, sometimes you just need the regular iPhone. He goes, they both work. They both take good pictures. They both whatever. And I thought that that was a good fucking, like a good little retort to what Khamzat Chimaev said. And for me, that's almost like a fundamental versus flashiness thing. Now, Khamzat Chimaev isn't overly flashy. He's not doing crazy spinning shit. He's, you know, using, for the most part, fundamentals anyway, so whatever. But it was still, I thought, a good retort to Khamzat and what he said about Usman. And then he was asked about what his plans are moving forward. Now, he wants to obviously win the middleweight title off Sean Strickland, assuming that he wins this one, and then he wants to go back down to welterweight. Now, he was asked about a fight with DDP, Dricus du Plessis, and he was a little dismissive. He really just wants to win the belt off Strickland. Word for word said, I'll keep it warm till Izzy comes back, and I'll go back down and get my welterweight title, and then I'll walk away, hold up a couple of fingers, and leave. And look, man, I credit to Usman not only for taking this fight, and I know that a lot of fighters are mentally strong, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in these last two, but man, to get fucking head kick KO'd badly to the point where you're like starched, right? Then to come back and have an ultra competitive fight with Leon Edwards in the trilogy, come up short, and to still have that kind of confidence in your ability without it coming across as arrogant, it's commendable. And you know, I already shat on him enough, so I'm not going to go over it again. But either way, let's move on to Volkanovski, okay? Volk, dude. Now, look, again, I'll just admit it. I'm biased. I like Volkanovski quite a bit. And I'm not saying that I fucking hate Islam Makhachev, but I am a big Volkanovski fan. Dude's a savage. And the bro has a mind. His mind is a steel fucking trap, okay? He's not fazed by a goddamn thing. And if he is, he does a hell of a good job not showing it. Because everything he says, everything that comes out of his mouth is almost what you want to hear from a guy that took this opportunity on 11 days notice. Like, he's less worried than his fans. It's insane, bro. And I'm one of his fans. I'm concerned for him. But look, he seems annoyed by some of the things that Islam were saying and his team have been saying. He kind of, which actually I'm not going to cover on Volk's portion, so I'll talk about it with Islam, because he reiterated, or actually like almost verbatim said some of the shit that I've been saying in the lead up, that I've been saying about some of the things that Islam Makhachev has said. But one thing that I liked from Volk is that he completely shut down the nothing to lose narrative, because that was just projected onto him by fans, by people online, by other people doing interviews. And he's right, man. He does have something to lose here, and he's very fucking honest with himself. And I like that, because he's not a guy trying to run from the truth in his brain to just not think about it. He fucking faces it head on, and this is why I think he's so mentally strong. And he kind of compared it, he goes, you know, if you injure your toe, and he goes, and you're fucking sitting there worried, like, oh shit, is it broken, blah, 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 blah. He goes, once you find out it's broken, in the worst case scenario, he's like, all the anxiety's gone, because you know what's wrong, move forward now. And I feel like that's, you know, a really fucking effective way to train your brain. So it's just positive overall, do you know what I mean? Like, he's not sitting there wallowing about fuck all. But shut down the nothing to lose narrative. He knows damn well, he says, look, this is probably my last chance at Islam Makhachev. And also, this was something that I said in a few live streams leading up, when some Volk fans were, you know, concerned and upset about the nature of this fight and how it came about. I said we might not have ever gotten to see this rematch ever again, because Islam's already talking about wanting to go up. There's multiple contenders at lightweight that he could fight. Volkanovski's got Topuria waiting for him. Topuria could win, Islam could lose. We could never see it. Do you know what I mean? So he felt like he had to jump on this opportunity. And he knows, though, that if I lose, like, I'm not going to get another chance, because I'm getting up there. I'm not going to be around forever. And if I lose twice to the dude who's holding the title, good fucking luck getting another one. You know what I mean? Holloway did, but either way. He keeps saying this, man. He said this in multiple interviews over the last couple days. I'm coming out guns a-blazing. You know, he says that he thinks he gave Islam a little bit too much respect the first time around, and then he caveats it. He clarifies. He says, look, not that his skill set doesn't deserve respect, but that I just, and this is my interpretation of it a little bit, so I might just be, you know, adding some shit, but it makes me think that maybe inside he was like a little more reserved, a little bit less, you know, not as willing to commit to certain shots, or to fully commit, or to just, you know, take chances. So we'll see how that goes for him. Okay, so he's saying he's gonna not give him as much respect as he did, which is fine. I mean, look, dude, he took a lot of big shots from Islam Makhachev. He kind of got dropped to one knee in one of those instances. But if I'm gonna, you know, if I'm gonna decide who hurt who more with a single shot, it was definitely in round 5 when Volkanovski put him down and then got on top of him and continued to smash him for the last minute of that fight. Do you know what I mean? So, confident in his abilities, says he's going to come out there, try to get an early KO. I don't understand this fucking narrative that he's doing that because he's not going to have the cardio. Since goddamn when has anybody seen Alexander Volkanovski tired a single fucking time ever? Do you know what I mean? I don't get it, man. I get that he's taking it on short notice. The dude's a savage. You don't just lose all of your cardio capabilities because you've been not in a camp. For like, the dude's a menace. I just don't see him gassing. Okay, but that's just me. Maybe people think otherwise. Either way, one thing I noticed, dude, I swear to God, one of the Abu Dhabi journalists, it seemed like they were trying to get in Volk's head almost. They kept repeatedly asking him about how often he leaves his family and for how long he has to leave his family and all this shit. And the guy had like 4 follow-up questions that were all regarding Volk leaving his kids. And I was like, bro, what are you doing? Are you trying to make the guy fucking cry? Like, get real, dude. And Volk had the most manly fucking answer you could possibly give, okay? He says, yeah, like, it sucks and I don't like it. And he goes, but I can turn that shit off and on. I've got a job to do and I gotta go do it. So I'll go fucking do it and I'll see them after. And that's that. And I love that answer from him because he has already said in previous interviews and shit like this, like, I'm doing all this hard work now so that I can spend more time with them when they're growing up. Because by the time he retires, he's going to be set, man. Dude's making bank, making hay while the sun shines. And his fucking kids are going to benefit for that in the long run. And they're all very little now anyway. So, you know, it sucks that you miss out on shit. But as someone who has two kids and a pretty, you know, as a dad, pretty hands-on approach to parenting, I do like that, because you can just tell he's a good, wholesome family guy, you know, holding his baby in the fucking gym. I like that shit. I know it's maybe not as entertaining as some of these other guys, but for me, I like it because I'm a parent, so it is what it is. Either way, let's get to Islam Makhachev. Okay, dude, now I'll tell you what. I'm going to end it with some good shit. Actually, I'll just do a shit sandwich, my guy, okay? Islam Makhachev deserves credit for taking this fight. Abso-fucking-lutely. And I like that he called out John Jones for not taking the Chael Sonnen fight way back when. Because first of all, Chael was a fucking middleweight. Let's be real. Second of all, no way he's beating John Jones. I know he's the greatest of all time. Undisputed, undefeated, never lost a single fucking round. Biggest arms in Westland, Oregon. All that shit. But John Jones would have whooped his ass. And I feel like he would have whooped his ass on 2 days' notice or fucking 20 weeks' notice. Do you know what I mean? So I thought that was good. He deserves more credit. He's confident in his abilities. He, you know, and there are absolutely champions that are reigning right now that probably wouldn't have been okay with this. Do you know what I mean? So it is what it is. However, dude, I've got some shit to say about Islam Makhachev. Okay. For some fucking reason, I don't understand this at all. Because, like, bro, you're the lightweight champion. Why do you give a fuck what anybody else has to say? He's got like a massive chip on his shoulder regarding the first fight, and I don't really understand it, okay? Because it seriously appears as though Volkanovski and that first fight, that first meeting of the two of them, like lives rent free in his head, which is wild, because ultimately he got his hand raised, right? And ultimately, all of the people at home that maybe thought he lost, or all of the people in the arena that maybe thought he lost, don't matter. The judges thought you won. The judges gave you the decision. And it's not like it was the worst fucking robbery anybody's at. Like, why is he so, like, I don't understand this chip on his shoulder. Like, it's like, it seems like they're making excuses. And it's not just him. It's him and his team. It's things that Khabib has said. It's things that Javier Mendez has said. It sounds like they're making excuses for a loss, which is just so fucking strange to me. You know what I mean? Like, you got the win. What the fuck are you talking about, bro? He literally brings it up constantly. Something else that he brings up constantly, which is one of the excuses that he, you know, pushes out there for his performance in Australia, is that whole hydration process. Look, man, he wanted to fight in Australia. This wasn't a UFC said, oh, do you want to fight Volk in Australia? Him and Khabib called out Volk on the mic in Australia. They literally said that. They set the date, they set the time, they set the fucking place, and they set the opponent. Look into this shit before you go and announce that you're going to go fight in some fucking country. Look in, do they have a different hydration process than anywhere else? Look up, do they allow you to use IVs? Look up all this shit, bro. Look up how much taxes you're going to be fucking paying, okay? Like John McDessie should have, okay? It's crazy to me, dude. They picked Australia, and then they want to complain about Australia. It's fucking weird, dude. Then he continues to play into that by saying, well, actually, to be fair, one of the reporters asked him about it, so it wasn't like he just brought this up unprompted. You know what I mean? So he's not just sitting there whining and bitching about it, which is fine, okay? I think it was Mike Bone from MMA Junkie, who's a cuck and he's Canadian, okay? He asks him, he goes, Javier Mendez says that, you know, because of the hydration process, Volkanovski was actually heavier than you on fight day or whatever. And he says Volkanovski denies that, so how do you know that or whatever? And Islam's like, yeah, well, the UFC told me. And then he says, because he doesn't have to cut much weight to get down to 155, which is kind of strange. Then how is he able to... If he didn't cut much weight, then how is he gaining more weight than you after the fact? Like, you can only gain so much weight after you cut weight, because you're essentially not gaining weight. You're replenishing your weight. You're getting it back. Do you know what I mean? It's not like somebody who weighs 170 cuts down to 155 and then on fight day they weigh 190 because they ate a couple of extra cheeseburgers. Like, that's not how the fuck it works, dude, okay? Also, I want to point this out. First of all, why does it matter? It's insane that he's focused on Volk's weight to me, which is crazy because, like, bro is so used to being the weight bully that when he comes across a guy that feels a little bit stronger, he's like, oh my god, he weighed more than me. Like, okay, bro, this is what everybody fucking feels like when they fight you anyways, right? That's one. Two, I hate to break it to everybody who's an Islam fan, Islam Makhachev, as shredded as he is, thank you to somebody in my chat this morning who brought this up and we had a good discussion about it, has an easier time, scientifically speaking, cutting weight and rehydrating during this whole process due to the amount of muscle he has. When they fought each other, Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev did not look the same. One of them looked shredded. One of them looked like he had a little bit of fucking extra timber or whatever the Brits like to say. Do you know what I mean? Volk had a little bit of extra weight on him, okay? Meaning body fat. And fat is not good for cutting weight because it's just not, dude. It's hydrophobic or whatever the fuck that term is. Muscle is very good for cutting weight. This has been explained by multiple weight cutting coaches. Like, it's science, okay? I hate to pull that fucking that card out, but it is. So Islam Makhachev, theoretically speaking, scientifically speaking, should have an easier weight cut and an easier rehydration period than Alexander Volkanovski. Also, they both got the same amount of time to rehydrate. Islam Makhachev is the only fucking fighter to fight that night to complain about the shortened rehydration time. Volkanovski had the same amount of time to rehydrate. So if he was able to get heavier than you when he cuts less weight, which means that he weighs less than you on any given day, okay? Then what that means is that your rehydration process is not as good as his. And he's doing something that you're not. He's doing something right that you're doing wrong. That's not on Australia. That's not on Volkanovski. That's on you, my guy. You got to figure that shit out, okay? Figure it the fuck out. You've got more muscle. You can cut weight easier. You can rehydrate easier. Volkanovski, if he did weigh more than you, it's because his rehydration program, his process that he does is fucking better than yours, dude. Figure it out, okay? Jesus fucking Christ. Also, I just about pulled an MMA Joey. Spit almost came flying out of my fucking mouth. Pardon me. Still sick. Anyways, sorry. But on top of that, bro, I don't know if anybody remembers this, and it would be a hard thing to go back and find tweets and shit like that from this period, but there was a time when the UFC allowed fighters to weigh in later on in the day, and then that got switched to the morning, and I don't remember what prompted it. It might have been the Holloway issue, when Bisping called him out for how bad he looked during one of his weight cuts. I don't remember what it was specifically. Somebody please, who's still fucking watching, okay? Let me know in the comments below. But they changed the time for which weigh-ins happened. There were more fighters that were mad that they weren't going to have more time to cut weight than fighters were happy that they had more rehydration time. They used to have more time to cut weight, less time to rehydrate, literally by the amount of hours that Islam Makhachev has complained about. So what it seems like to me is that Australia just works off of the old way that they used to do it in the States, but then the States thought we want guys going in there more hydrated as opposed to dehydrated, which kind of makes sense, but it also allows for some serious weight bullying, because whoever's doing the weight bullying can just start their weight cut a day early. But either way, this isn't like some insane thing that this has never happened before. Like, fighters used to get that amount of time to rehydrate. Islam Makhachev is the only one that's ever complained about it from Australia. Volkanovski had the same amount of... So why is it so, like... It's literally like he's coping, dude. And I know that there's just going to be people that say I'm unbiased and I hate fucking Islam, but that's not the case, man. I don't understand this, like, why are you constantly making excuses for the first fight that you got the win? You know what I mean? It's so weird. Either way, something else I didn't really like. So one, he keeps saying that Volk's taking this fight for money, which is wild to me. Like, okay, if he got a fat fucking pay raise, so be it. He stepped in early. But for him to question his, like, want for legacy seems really strange when he's got more title defenses than his guy, Habib. Do you know what I mean? So anyways, something else was he has basically refused a fight with Charles Oliveira or Justin Gaethje. He says they should fight each other. No, the fuck they shouldn't, dude. No, the fuck they shouldn't. You fight one of them, motherfucker. This is driving me crazy, dude. This is driving me crazy. He doesn't want to fight lightweight contenders because he wants to fight Leon or Colby. Now, fine, dude, but you, assuming you win this fight, just for argument's sake, have 2 title defenses. Both of them against featherweights. Now, to be fair, the second one against Volk is not his fault. He was supposed to be fighting Charles Oliveira. Charles pulled out. Volk stepped in. He accepted the fight. Fine. But the fact is that his 2 title defenses will both be against a guy that is not in his division. Okay? That's just the fact of the matter. I'm not shitting on him. I'm just saying it. Okay? Fight a fucking lightweight contender, bro. Charles Oliveira has beaten everyone in the top 5. Charles Oliveira's got a finish over Gaethje, Dustin, Chandler, and fucking Beneil Dariush. You're the only guy that he lost to. Islam Makhachev has beaten only Charles Oliveira. He hasn't fought Dustin. He hasn't fought Justin. He hasn't fought Chandler. He hasn't fought Beneil. He hasn't fought Gamrot. He hasn't fought like, come on, dude. Fight a lightweight contender. Volkanovski defended his title 4 times before moving up. 4 times. And then he didn't get the nod against you. He came back down and defended his featherweight title again since the last time y'all have fought. He's had a whole championship camp and fight in between your guys' last fight, whereas you've just been sitting out. And I know that the UFC probably wanted to keep him for Abu Dhabi, but what are we doing here, bro? So it's going to be another year at least before we actually see you defend your lightweight title against a lightweight. And that's assuming you make it out of your double champ fight, okay? Or assuming you don't lose to, like, it's just fucking weird, man. It's weird. I want guys, if they want to try and move up, to fight and defend their titles multiple times. I fucking hate Israel Adesanya, but at least he did that. Volk did that. You know what I mean? Like, do that. Don't just fucking win the title and then be like, I want to jump up there. Either way. Now, I've gotten all my negatives out of the way, okay? I'll just end on a good note. Again, Islam Makhachev deserves credit for taking this fight, absolutely. Short notice replacement for him as well. It's unfortunate circumstances, but it is what it is. I'm glad that he didn't pull out after this happened, because we wouldn't get one of the best fucking fight cards of the year by far, in my opinion. And, you know, it's against a guy who he had a very tough first fight with. So this isn't like, if the situation was flipped and he was supposed to be fighting Volk, who he had a really hard fight with, and then Volk had to pull out and they had to swap him out with Charles Oliveira, I could see Islam like taking that like that. Easy peasy, I already finished that guy, fuck it. You know what I mean? This is different though. He was probably ultra confident against Charles Oliveira. You're only human, man. There's no way that his confidence wasn't shaken just a little bit, knowing that he has to go out there and fight the guy that gave him his toughest test to date, aside from the KO loss that he has. So, credit to him for taking the fight. And I'm not trying to be shitty or unbiased or just talk shit about Islam Makhachev, but there was quite a few things that he said that just bothered me. He seems bitter. He seems like he's coping a little bit. He seems like he has to keep making excuses for a fight that he ended up winning. Do you know what I mean? It's just weird. So either way, that's my thoughts on Media Day for the co-main event. It went longer than I thought it would. I'm sorry. I'll add timestamps, pardon me. Like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.